Welcome into the At the Yard podcast, episode 141. Another packed house with Vinny, Hank, Hardy, and Les here to break down some of the action that we saw last week. And Vinny, Hank, I know you guys were covering tournaments last week. Hardy covering a bunch of games there in the Central California area. I was at the National Classic, and I want to just start there real quick with a huge tip of the cap to the coaches over at El Dorado and Yorba Linda and Villa Park for just what, in my opinion, was one of the best national classics, at least in the last 4, 5, maybe even 6 years. Quality teams, quality players, really good coaches. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys saw that, Vinny and Hank, in your tournaments. And, you know, just again, shout out to those guys for putting together what I think was arguably, so far the best tournament in SoCal that we've had this year at the National Classic.
Yeah, I think just seeing all the video coming out that you were putting out from there, like I was a little jealous up here of the teams that were there and the guys that you were seeing. Like the field looked fantastic, the players in the event and just everything all in all, like it looked like you had an awesome week of going to, did you say 12 games in 4 days?
Yeah, 12 games in 4 days. And it was awesome. I mean, from a talent level, ton of scouts out there. Which kind of is that barometer for, the level of talent. Not a ton of college coaches this year, which interestingly enough, generally we get a bunch of those, but there were a handful of those guys out as well. But I mean, there was one game where I was at, there was 24, 25 college or pro scouts with, 7 or 8 cross checkers there, which is, tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, speaking of scouts, I think a majority of the college scouts were up in my tournament going on at the Boris. This year there's tons of good talent. A couple teams that were in it last year weren't in it this year, so it's always good to see, new teams come around. It was a chance for me to get a hold of, a lot of the Bay Area teams that I don't get to see. And then I know like teams from Baco always come up or Fresno. Yeah. So, it's good to get. I think it's the only tournament up here in a place to where, you got 2 fields, you got 4 or 5 games going on every day for 4 days. And, up here, one of the days actually got kind of rained out. So it was 10 games going on the 2 fields. And then they had Whitney High School as an alternate site for the losers bracket. So it was just kind of think about a 4-day thing of just games.
Yeah.
And, shooter comes in and, it's good to get all the guys together. And so I had a great time up here.
How many games a day do they play in that thing up there? Because it looked like you were at the field from sun up to sundown every day last week.
They started they're going 4 games a day. And then, so 10, 1, 4, and 7. And then the rain out kind of ruined things. So they went 8:30, 10, and then just all the way through the whole day. But It was, they got them in.
Yeah. I know for me, for the Lions tournament, it's always fun just because, you get teams from all over the place. Got to see a team from NorCal and Elk Grove, make the trip down. We got eyes on Jacob Lombard from Florida. They were in the tournament. And, it ended up being the 2 best teams so far this spring in San Diego met in the championship, and Cathedral and Rancho Bernardo, who have kind of separated themselves from the pack so far. And, they ended up having a thriller, for the Lions tournament that Cathedral Catholic ended up pulling out. So, just kind of wrapped up a busy week where, a lot of good teams were down in San Diego, and the 2 best teams who've, been putting together the best season so far, ended up closing it out.
For me, I saw
Hardy.
my chaos leagues. That's what I got to see the last 2 weeks. I was out in the Marmani and the Foothill, and they are living up to the prediction. Like, it's just, I saw 2 upsets. I almost saw a 3rd upset. Like, they are utter chaos.
Which is awesome.
It is
awesome.
I'm going back and looking at my predictions going like, there's a good chance that these are going to get blown up really fast.
But yeah, that's why we have that caveat when we make these predictions, right? It's like, hey, at the end of the day, it's high school baseball, and it's 15 to 18-year-old kids, and you never know what's going to happen. So, so we're going to head into another pretty busy week this week, at least, in SoCal, with the South version of your tournament there, Hank, and pretty good. roster of teams heading over to Mater Dei and to J. Sarah. And so, I know Hardy, you'll be out at games, and Vinny, you're going to be very targeted with your games this week in terms of seeing some very specific guys. And Hank, I'm sure you're doing the same thing this week.
Yep. I mean, especially because up here, the Easter break is different for some some schools. So last week was spring break. This week's Easter break for some people. So I'll be at some Easter tournaments and, just sparingly games that, I haven't seen guys. So.
Yeah, I'm catching some Central Coast. I'm going to get St. Joe's coming down this way, and then I'm going to make my pilgrimage into Bakersfield this week too to go see Bakersfield Christian and Ridgeview. Big series in that league.
They were fun to watch, Hardy.
Yeah.
Baco Christian when they came up.
Yeah.
So I was
that's been on my calendar for a while, so I'm going to finally run it down. I'm just hoping it's not too hot or too cold out there.
I was a big fan of their shortstop. Their shortstop.
Baco Christian?
Yeah.
I know. I'm going to get eyes on our boy Quintero this week. Yeah, they're two really good programs.
Yeah.
Get to see our guy Quintero as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That'll
be good. All right. Well, let's we chatted a little bit about what we're going to see this week. Let's go back and let's break down some of these guys that we saw last week. And Hank, I'm going to start with you up in NorCal. A 28 outfielder, right-handed pitcher. When I saw this video,
lefty pitcher.
Sorry. When I saw this video, I was like, "Oh wow, that looks pretty good." Ryan Miller out of Granite Bay.
Yeah, Rye. He came to our Stanford preseason. He came a year before that to our preseason as a freshman. But the kid definitely put himself on the map. I think, especially at the Boris, he hits 4 for Granite Bay. He's lefty left, so he plays outfield, can pitch, and he plays first. But he mainly played outfield in the Boris. I think where he kind of turned a lot of heads is just his bat. The kid can run too, but if a guy that can hit the ball up the middle on the line, go 6-hole base hit, and then burn one to the gap on the right side, I think there's value in that. And he kind of has got a little Cody Bellinger in him, just like the length, just the way kind of plays. But he's a kid to where he will be at the Future Games tryout, and it's just a matter of, is he going to take this momentum and carry it into the summer and his future. But a kid like him, I like to point out too that he was okay with playing JV baseball last year, and he was one of the best freshmen on there. And now it's to a point where he did get pulled up, and he's doing what he's doing. So just a kind of side note there is there's nothing wrong with playing freshman or JV baseball either, just like Ryan did. But when the time comes and you got all these sophomores who are ready, they made a name for themselves, I think, in the Boris. So props to Ryan and Granite Bay. They got a really young team, and they lost a really good game in extras against St. Mary's for the North title. But Ryan's doing good. And next guy, I'll pass it off to you, Vinny. This guy's got some big league bloodlines. Matthew Pryor.
Yeah, I got to see Pryor last week in the Lions tournament against a pretty good team in El Camino Real. And it was just, pretty impressive seeing the lengthy right-hander, take the mound for a 3-inning look. Ended up going 3 innings, gave up 1 run. It was 87 to 89, got up to 90. Was mainly fastball, throughout the outing, mixed in a couple sliders, at 77 miles an hour, but it was mainly a fastball look, pretty live and effortless out of the hand, swing and miss in the zone. It's a lengthy body. I'll probably give him 6'1", 6'2". A lot of projectability in the frame, much like his dad. Mark Pryor played in the big leagues, Dodgers pitching coach. And, it's just a body that is going to fill out over time, and a body that I think is going to see serious velocity gains. And it's great to see eyes on players like this now, so you can see kind of where they go from here. And, he was very impressive in this, short stint, ended up receiving a Future Games tryout invite, and I'm excited to see kind of where he goes the rest of the spring. Also a two-way guy, can play third base. He bats in the middle of their order at St. Augustine, younger team right now. So just really impressive look from the sophomore right-hander.
It's funny you mentioned the Future Games invite. I a couple years ago we had an All Saints battery out at future games, right? With
Yep.
Shane or with Chase Miranda or Shane Miranda, excuse me, and Johnny Haskett, and we might have that again this year, which is it's kind of cool. Saints
Yeah.
is doing a really good job.
Yeah. With the Miranda little brother.
Yeah, right. With the
Yeah.
younger Miranda, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Hardy, we'll go over to you. Two-way guy, 2028 sophomore, Orion Gonzalez.
Yeah, this was my third chance to get to see him in the last about 12 months, going all the way back to last spring season. And you said it right, two-way talent. I've now seen him do everything that he can do on a baseball field. I saw him DH last year. I saw him at a scout team tryout back in January where my eyes were like, whoa, that boy has changed since I saw him in March. Like, and you can see it on the video. The legs are strong, the arms are strong, the upper body's filled out. It's like he went in and he went to work on his body in the last 9 months, and it's really showing up. It was a good look. Got to see him on the mound, and I was really interested. Like freshman year, didn't allow a run at all in 25 innings, 26 innings. He's got a 2 ERA. I don't think I got the best look at him. He looked a little out of sorts, a little out of sync. Like he was very arm on the mound, but the arms, it's good. It's easy. It's loose. It's athletic when it comes through. He got up to 88. Just there was something out of sorts with him on the mound that day. Didn't seem like he had a feel for his breaking ball, his changeup, but the ball came out really good. The thing I love about this kid, and I am a noted sucker for a left-handed hitter and sometimes a little biased, but this is a real left-handed hitter. Like he knows what he's doing in the box. He's got intent. I love the way he loads. I love the way he gets to the ground. The bat speed has gone up since I saw him last spring. He drilled 3 balls to the pull side, and it's easy to say like he's dead pull. I think it's just pure bat speed, and he was facing upper 80s that day from the Valencia staff. He just missed leaving the yard, went out second base, looks really good on defense there. I got a comment under my tweet about, hey, I think this kid's also a really good shortstop from somebody that Hank really specs up in NorCal, and I know we all have a very good relationship. And it was like, oh, wait, this kid plays shortstop too? He's not just a second baseman? So Gonzalez for me it's a must-see 28 for college programs. Like you've got to get eyes on this kid because he could do a lot of things really, really good on a baseball field. Let's pass it up to you, Les. And I think this is the guy you mentioned earlier that had a bevy of scouts and high-level decision makers in to see him in Graham Schlicht from De La Salle.
Yeah, I think my count was over 25 guys, and I think it was, like I said, 7 or 8 cross-checkers in to see him, and it was just an incredibly dominant performance. I mean, he went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 walks, finished with 8 Ks, never gave up more than 1 hit in an inning, never had more than 1 walk in an inning. He was 90 to 92, ramped it up to 94 on 3 separate occasions, hit a few 93s in there as well. Changeup at 83, 84 with the slider at 79 to 83. It's he had 2 different shapes to it. He had one that's more of a sweepy slider, one more at 78, or pardon me, 80 to 83, and then one that's more of a traditional curveball at 78, 79. It's kind of that 11-5 break. But the thing that really, really popped to me was he got 17 whiffs on the breaking ball in that game. And that is just a staggering number. I mean, any way you slice it, 17 whiffs with a breaking ball is just, it's staggering. He dominated. He flat out dominated a really good Notre Dame team. And this is not, the Sisters of the Blind. This is Notre Dame from the Mission League, who is going to compete for that league championship. And it was just thoroughly impressive what he was able to do. It's a bigger body, about 6'3", somewhere in that neighborhood. But there's room for a whole lot more. The arm action's really clean. He's made improvements on that breaking ball that I touched on. So, dramatic improvements from when I saw him at the area code games last summer to now. And the changeup's now a weapon too. I mean, it just falls off the table to lefties, and he's not scared to throw it to righties either, which is pretty darn impressive when you consider the quality of his breaking ball that goes away from the right-handed hitters. But I think he, as they say in the industry, he made himself some money that day. I mean, now is it going to be hard to pull him away from a Stanford commit? Probably, but nonetheless, he, in front of people who make those types of decisions, he made himself a bunch of money, man, because he was that good. So another guy that was really good for you, Hank, guy we had at the pro case last year from Bakersfield Christian, and an Ole Miss commit, McCoy Seelig.
Yeah, McCoy, I mean, if you want to talk about making himself some money like Schlitt did, I think McCoy was just as good up here. But the game he threw wasn't the greatest weather conditions. I mean, it was raining. I think the scout count was above 30 for that game too. So, but the thing that I like about McCoy, you guys have obviously, seen him a little bit more than I have, but it's 6'5", 225, and he's the leadoff hitter for Bakersfield Christian. Like, I mean, for me, that's stating something to start a game off. And then, he's the starter as well. So it's 92, 95 with, 23 to 2,500 spin. He throws a split and a slider. The split, I think, that's coming along. The slider is around the same, 23, 24, but it's got that, late break. But yeah, I mean, he's a bulldog. It's big body, big power arm. And I think with, just some more time in development, he could be a guy that doesn't even make it to Ole Miss just because you see what he can do right now. And, but yeah, I mean, just watching him hit too, it's like you don't see kids really swing that hard and, actually make contact too. So that was just fun to watch on that side of it. But as far as one of the more power arms and quality arms in the state of California, McCoy is definitely, I think he's at the top of that list. So for his first time seeing him in person like that, I was, it was bad conditions, but I think aside from that, it was a quality start. So, Vin, let's throw it over to you, Mr. Zayden Castillo from Chaparral.
Yeah, I got to look at Zayden against a really good Temecula Valley team. Relief appearance, two-way guy. He also, plays third base for them. Bats, I think, fifth in their order. But he really stood out on the mound for me. Came in late in the game. Close game at the time. I think Temecula Valley had a short lead. Comes in with runners first and second, nobody out. Ended up getting out of the jam. No runs across. I really like the arm action with him. It's short and it's whippy. 86 to 88, got up to 89. Two-seam run, not afraid to throw in on right-handed hitters. Has occasional, arm side command tendencies. Sometimes, the front shoulder flew open a little bit, but ended up mixing in a curveball at 74 to 75. And then had an intriguing changeup at 81 to 83. The arm side run really kind of just took over with his three-quarter slot. Really faded in and, kind of had some uncomfortable swings with right-handed hitters. I would like to see him kind of get down the mound a little more. It's a short stride. The action's raw right now as he, comes downhill, but, the arm action, it's natural talent. It's up to 89. I think with some fine tuning, that velocity could jump. It's a physical kid, 6 foot, definitely over 200 pounds. Just, very intriguing. And then he's also hitting over 300 right now, has some power, has 4 doubles this year with a home run. So, just a sophomore to, definitely keep tabs on at Chaparral. Then Hardy, will swing it over to you. A guy having, just a monster year, really possesses, multiple tools. Someone I really liked when I saw him last year at Ventura College for the Central Cal Summer ID, and that's Wyatt Richardson out of St. Bonnie.
Yeah, Hank, you said this earlier, and I shook my head in complete agreement that there's nothing wrong with playing freshman or JV baseball when you're young. Like, some guys bloom a little bit later, and Wyatt started his high school career on JV at St. Bonaventure last year. He didn't come up until the very tail end of his freshman year for a game at San Marcos, and the previous coach there sent me a text the day before and said, hey, can you get to our game tomorrow? Like, I've got a freshman coming up that you need to see. He's going to be really good. And I said, yeah, I can make that work. So I got up there, and that was my first look at Wyatt. And he was this wiry, skinny, twitchy, athletic kid. I vividly remember him making a throw from the outfield during infield outfield that dropped my jaw, where I'm like, how did that kid with that body, that skinny, throw that ball that hard, that far? Like, it is just lightning arm speed. He said he came to Central Cal. Summer ID was really good there. He came up to um, West Coast Super Sophomore and had a good showing. And Hank, you and I were sitting at the table towards the end of it because he was about 130 pounds soaking wet at the time. And we were talking about his approach. And I was like, I feel like he's late all the time. And you said a really good point. Like, when he gets stronger, I don't think he's late. I just don't think he's got his strength yet. And so I made a comment about the 130 on a podcast previously, and Wyatt took it to heart and said, I'm going to get in the weight room and I'm going to get after it. And I was talking to the family around Christmas time. They're like, no, he laughed and said, all right, I'm 130 pounds. Watch this. He's now up to about 155, looks really strong. And that dynamic athleticism is showing up in even more performance. Like, the kid's hitting near 500. He's got an astounding 34 steals in, I think, 16 games, which I gave him a little. They play in a smaller division, so they play some teams that aren't great. But to his credit, he's getting on base and he's stealing second and he's stealing in third. So he's got to get on base to do that first. He smoked the ball when I saw them play, dropped down a beautiful sack bunt, a little Matt Monk special, shouting out Matty Monk. And he almost beat it. Like, that was the wild thing, is it was like the dead cell sack bunt, and he was out by a step and a half at first base with his speed, ran down a ball in shallow left center, ran down a ball up against the fence in right center field. And then you go to the fact that I didn't even get to see him do what might potentially be his long-term future. I mean, he's up to 90, 91 on the mound, and it comes out easy with athleticism and spins the crap out of a breaking ball. It's just it's a must-see 28 that people are going to need to get eyes on, because I think this kid is just starting to figure it out, and there's even more to come for him in the future.
You do love the Matt Monk specials, right?
I had to give Matty a shout out.
I saw a beautiful one at El Dorado, man. I
think you sent that. I was like, ooh, yes.
I sent it to Monk, and he just got a little giddy.
Matt, wherever you are, we're still thinking of you, big man. But let's throw it over to you, Les. And this is a kid I know we all love from Georgia a couple summers ago, and he's really starting to figure it out on the mound and tap into what you said 2 years ago, that this kid's going to be dynamic on the mound one day. And that's Taden Krogsgaard, Temecula Valley, UCLA commit.
Yeah, man, Krog's really impressed. There was probably, I would say, anywhere between a dozen to 15 scouts in attendance for this one, as it was a really good matchup. Krog's the UCLA commit going against AJ Lasota, the 27 Virginia commit, also a former future gamer. Notre Dame against Temecula Valley. And it was a great game. It was a great high school baseball game that went down to the last batter. They had the tying run at third. They just couldn't cash him in for Temecula Valley. But Krogs was lights out. I mean, he goes out first inning, gives up 3 hits, 2 runs, gave up 1 hit the rest of the game. And he absolutely locked in, was up to 92. He was living 90, 91. The slider at 77, 79 just got better and better and better as the game went on. And you stole the term from me, Hank, when you were talking about Seelig. He was an absolute bulldog. I mean, this guy just absolutely just dealt. And it's, it's one of those games where, it's unfortunate. And there was a lot of these in the National Classic, man. I tell you, this was such a good tournament, but it's just a bummer that a team has to lose this game, because Krogs dealt, man. And it's just loose. It's repeatable. I think he is fully bought into, hey, my future is probably on the mound. I'll be a two-way guy in high school, but, if and when I step foot either into pro ball or into Westwood at UCLA, it's probably going to be on the mound where he has his biggest impact. And, the velocity, the thing that really impressed me is he doesn't look like he's, 195, 200 pounds, 205 pounds. He's still, he looks stronger than when he was with us in Georgia a couple summers ago. But it's not like big, bulky, strapping physical frame. But man, he was 91 in the 7th inning, right? Like he held his velo. The slider was still 78 in the 7th inning. He did throw a few changeups. I didn't get them on my radar gun, so I don't like to talk about them unless I get them on my gun, and because just for whatever reason, right? I mean, that's a personal preference. But he did mix in some changeups when I was getting some hitters, and it looked good from the side angle where I was watching the hitters. But again, it's just he has cleaned up so many things on the mound to where now it's like, man, this is a bona fide guy who, should he make it to UCLA next year, is going to have an opportunity to get certainly some midweek innings and potentially some weekend innings for the Bruins next year. So Hank, with that, I'm going to go over to you for a 2028 who we've been talking about internally now for a long time, and you got a really good look at him last week at a Liberty High School 28 catcher pitcher, Brogan Witcher.
Yeah, I got super lucky actually getting to see Witcher throw on the mound. I was going to watch the morning game to go see our boy Jace Woolley, former future gamer, and the pitcher they were throwing is a 28. I really like Mark Douglas, so I get up to the field and I see Witcher's not catching, and then I ask, and sure enough, he's on the mound, and I'm like, well, that's 2 for 1 for me. So, but if you were to ask me if I didn't know about Witcher going into that game, I would have told you that he's a just straight pitcher. But just from what I saw in those 3 innings, through the couple days before, I think, the size is very attractive. It's 6'4", it's 210. Can't really, dream better than that. I think the comparison up here is him and Brandon Williams are like the same type of dude. They're both the same height. They both pitch. They both catch. They both righty bats that, Witcher popped up to center field the day before, and it was like a 6-second pop-up. So, I mean, there's definitely the bat has juice, but just from seeing him dominate on the mound, it's 91, 94, and that was from catching 3 days prior. So who knows what else is in the tank still. And it was just so easy, like you see a guy throwing that hard and, there's a lot of effort and grunts, but this kid it looked like he'd been pitching for 4 years, and the curveball was just, good luck. And, he didn't even have to flash a changeup, which was, I think once he does develop a changeup, I think the arm's going to be even better than it is. So, but yeah, I think just, someone's going to give him a shot on the mound. Someone's going to give him a shot behind the dish. He's got a lot of options right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do hear him hit like 98 on the mound this summer, or he hits 10 bombs for, whatever team he's playing for. But whatever they're feeding those Bakersfield kids or putting in that water, feel free to disperse it throughout the state.
A lot of steak, I think, is consumed out there.
I heard there's a comment.
Just a note to Brogan real quick. The ball flies out at Lake Point in Georgia at the end of July.
And the mounds are really not. They're in good shape. The
mounds are really nice. Just a little FYI, bro.
And Bakersfield is SoCal, if I remember correct.
Whatever it is, but there is whatever that water has. Because the crazy part is their 4-hitter was a freshman who was 6'5", 245, and has got, multiple football offers for D1s.
Wow. It goes back to what you said, Hank. Like, there are, not to give this state a whole lot of credit, but they are our Texas. Those kids are built differently out there.
And, from Fresno to Bakersfield, that's kind of our niche in California. So you want the hardworking guys that know sports, school, and, whatever else out there, go for it, because you're going to find a tough kid who loves sports in the Valley. So
no doubt. That's a really good point.
Yeah, they're very, very focused kids.
And, props to those guys for coming up here and, making a name for themselves. And, I'm excited to, get Bakersfield going. But Witcher, very, very fun guy to watch. And I think we're all going to be excited to where he ends up.
Yeah.
Future games.
But yeah, no. So we'll pass it over to you, Vin. Actually, a kid from my area. I really like this kid a lot. Is Jaden Hernandez out of Elk Grove High School.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking about a 6'4", 210 guy who stands out. Well, Hernandez is about 5'8", 160 pounds, and he made a lasting impression for me as well. It just goes to prove that guys, of multiple sizes can make serious impacts. And Hernandez, I think, is a must-watch 2028 athlete. Infielder catcher. I saw him catch in the Lions tournament when they made the trip down to San Diego. And, I texted Hagen pretty early on in that game. And, he said, keep an eye out on Hernandez. And actions were pretty raw early on. I saw him pop a 208, in between innings, strike right down to second base, and the hands looked a little stiff when he was receiving behind the plate. And but as the game went on, the impression got better and better. His athleticism and his natural baseball instincts took over behind the plate, where he was just keeping balls in front, left and right. I don't think a ball reached the backstop from the second inning on. Back picked a runner at first base. The hands behind the plate got better and better. Looked like he was getting more comfortable on stealing strikes. And then he comes up with a big 2-run single, beat out an infield hit up the middle that drove in two that, cut the game to one at the time in the sixth inning. And it just shows that he just competes. He has a great judgment of the strike zone, doesn't expand, and, understands, pitches that are off are off. And, I think that bodes well as a catcher. When you step into the batter's box, he has a good idea of the strike zone. He displays natural leadership abilities that I really loved, especially as a sophomore. That's something that really stood out to me. And, I would just love to see him on the dirt, on the infield, because, he plays a really good, catcher behind the plate. But, I think that he, from what I've heard, is also pretty good up the middle too. And, on a day where he didn't have the best, performance offensively, although he had the infield hit, he just found ways that contribute to winning. And, it just goes to, on top of that, he's hitting 500 this year in 51 plate appearances. He's got 24 hits. He's driven in 18, 2 triples, 3 doubles. So, he's just having a monster year, and, he just stood out doing the little things that didn't light up the box score when I saw him. So, must watch 2028 for me.
Jaden Hernandez, I forgot to tell you, Vin, his dad was a 10-year big leaguer pitcher.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So
there you go.
That explains it a little.
He'll be all right.
Vinny's on the bloodlines today. Vinny is just
Way to
full
bury
of the
the lead,
bloodlines.
Hank. Way to bury the lead.
Sorry. I'll point
It
the
makes
thumb,
sense
not the finger.
I like that.
Called accountability. All right.
I'm going to have to use that one with my 12-year-olds.
No, use it on the Roughnecks. They'll listen.
Oh, wow. God, I hope so.
Hardy, we'll go over to you. A guy that we've all fallen in love with. Obviously, we know his older brother, but he's starting to make a name for himself, kind of getting out of his brother's shadow. Made a lasting impression in Oregon at the Super Soft, and that's Colton Dunwoody.
Yeah. I think Les has officially christened the nickname, and it did receive the double thumbs up of approval from his brother.
Yeah.
And it is now Baby Dunwoody. So
Baby Woody. Baby Woody.
Baby Woody.
Yeah.
No, it was funny. I had marked that game as a potential to go see during the week as I was looking for building my schedule out. And then on Monday, Papa Dunwoody sends me a text and goes, "Hey, Colton's going to make his varsity debut as a starter against Santa Barbara." I'm like, "Oh, perfect. Like that just sealed the deal. I'm coming up to that game." And, for a kid that is kind of getting bounced around and not in a bad way. I mean, it's a 2-game-a-week league. They've got 4 Division I commits on their pitching staff, so there just aren't innings for him as a varsity guy this year. So he's pitching on JV, he's hitting on JV, but then he's coming up and he's, throwing out a relief on the varsity team. He's just kind of getting moved around. The kid got the start, and it was a really impressive display. And I remember going to see his older brother, Dusty, as a sophomore coming out of the bullpen behind Caden Schrammick in my first ever look at him. And it was just so many similarities, but some differences also. Dusty had maybe a tick more velocity at that time. Colton's 84, 86, bumped 87 multiple times. Dusty throws a little more of a takeoff ride fastball. Colton throws a little bit more of a power sinker that really runs to the arm side. And when he throws it down in the zone, it's got some boring action that the right-handed hitters of Santa Barbara struggled with. I can remember one ball in the air, I think maybe two across 4 innings. I was really impressed with his change. It was at 79 to 80, and I grabbed Papa Dunwoody at one point and said, he throws his change at 79 to 80. He's like, yeah. So whenever he figures out to throw his fastball harder, it's going to be a really good pitch for him. He just can't use it because it turns into a BP fastball. The breaking ball was in the mid 70s. I think it peaked at 77, but lived at 74, 76. He generally throws more of a horizontal breaking slider. It had more depth on it. It was going downwards. And it was another question. I'm like, has he switched his breaking ball? He's like, no, just he doesn't get to throw a lot of bullpens right now. It's basically like all his pitching comes in games. So he's like, his shape of his breaking ball is bouncing back and forth between the slider you guys know and this like more curveball-y shape that he's getting. You know, it's going to be a big focus for him in the summer is to polish up the breaking ball and make it more consistent with the shape and the power. But 4 innings, 1 run, faced a very quality older lineup that was filled with a lot of seniors. Did a fantastic job. I got to see a little bit of everything. You know, he dominated 2 innings. He got into trouble in 1 inning. I think it was bases loaded, nobody out on a hit, you know, a seeing eye single, a hit batter, and then he limits the damage to 1 run. He got 2 double play balls in key situations. So very much like Dusty, like this kid's going to be really good. And the only reason he's under the radar is there's just not varsity innings, and it's not because he's not good. They've
Ball's
got
loaded.
Arizona, UCLA, UCSB, USF, and they only play 2 games a week. So where are the opportunities? They come in a tournament week where they're playing 3 games. They come on a Saturday, hey, we need you to come up and fill in. And he's done a fantastic job with every opportunity he's been given. So let's pass it actually down to you, Les, to probably the best pitching development program here on the war. One of the best, I should say. I shouldn't say they are the best, but they're pretty darn good at what they do with guys on the mound. That's Drew Slevkov going to UCSB out of Cyprus. Did I get it? Yes.
Nailed it. Attaboy, Hardy. Yeah. Slevy, we've known about for a while, right? He goes from a program that produces really quality pitchers to signing with UC Santa Barbara, who obviously produces really quality pitchers. And I'm just really impressed with the gains that Slevy has made from last year to this year. So I saw him, like, I want to say 3 times last year, and it was a low to mid 80s fastball with a low 70s breaking ball and kind of a mid 70s changeup. And they were all decent pitches. None of them really stood out. But now it's a 88 to 90 mile an hour fastball that touched 91, 92, and it's an 82 to 83 mile an hour changeup that is just devastating to right-handed hitters from the left side. And it's a slider at 76, 77 that has flashes of being an above average pitch for him. He was in a jam twice in this game, once in the 3rd inning and then once again in the 7th inning. But outside of that, there was never really any trouble or any threat from Basic in this game. He did scatter 7 hits. He finished with 6 strikeouts against only 1 walk. I want to say he had 1 hit batter. That was Andrew Giles, who he drilled right in the ribs with 90 mile an hour fastball on the first pitch. But outside of that, I mean, there was really not a whole lot of trouble that he was facing in this game. He kind of cruised despite giving up those 7 hits. It's just it's just the advancements he's made in the last couple of years. And you mentioned on one of the pitchers that you spoke about earlier, Vin, that you'd like to see him get down the mound a little bit more. Similar with Slevkov, I think if he gets down the mound a little bit more, extends that stride a little bit, it'll help with his extension, potentially even with his velocity. But it's just he hides the ball well. It's kind of a quirky, deceptive move where he turns the back a little bit to guys, and he hides the ball well, and it's kind of tough to pick up till it's starting to get on you, kind of out of a high 3/4 slot. So Drew Slevko is just, I mean, again, just the impression he made on me mainly came from the advancements and the gains that he's made, not only on his velocity, but just the differences in his delivery as a whole. But so, I mean, he's just off to a really good start. And Cypress has two guys, man, with Belfonte going to TCU and Slevkov going to UC Santa Barbara. When you get into the playoffs in this single elimination format with 2 games a week, I mean, 2 guys, as we've seen over the last several years, can really carry you, to holding up that trophy. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for Cypress, because their offense is also pretty darn good.
Yeah, they've made serious jumps this spring, with Power 25 now.
Both those guys, Lukach and Belfonte.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them have made really big jumps so far this spring. But Hank, a guy that you've been singing his praises here for several years, shortstop out of Franklin, committed to Cal. And when you get the kind of the blessing from Shooter and saying, like, I think Hank's on. You might be right. I think Hank's onto something, that usually bodes pretty well. But Jason Harris out of Franklin High School.
Harris is finally back and healthy. He was dealing with a pretty agitating hamstring issue. And, with those things, as we all know, is they suck, right? You think you come back, you get it healthy, one little move, it's like out another 4 to 5 weeks, right? So I think with him is he was just trying to get it, as healthy as he could until, try to play in this Boris thing. So, and he looks like he didn't skip a beat. I mean, every swing he takes is just, it's that violent aggression. It's controlled. And I like to call him, he's a line-to-line guy. He can get you the base hit. He'll spoil you a bunch of pitches, but he'll go first pitch bomb over the right field fence. Like, that's the type of top of the guy who I would think he has a shot to play next year as a freshman, especially going to Cal. I mean, as hitters hit, and if you're going to hit, you're not going to sit. So if they got to throw him in left field, so be it. But I think he's a kid where he's athletic enough to where, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Jason in the starting lineup, and whether he's on the dirt or in the grass, that'll be determined, what the team needs. But, Shooter's seen him a bunch of times so far, and every time the kid will hit. So I'm not saying he's not going to end up on the dirt. He's still 17 years old. He's a young kid. And there's still room for improvement, but, a guy like Jason he probably will get, 3 to 4 years of college starting time rather than, there is a possibility if I can see him going to the Power 4, but I don't think that's even a question for him, is he wants to play immediately and a place where he's going to, try to develop rather than, be so transactional with this game nowadays. So I think Jace is he's in a really good spot, especially with the young, our boy Jet Kennedy starting at shortstop for Cal there. So, they do favor the young guys. So he's got a really good shot.
Yeah. Starting and thriving, Jet Kennedy.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. But, I think we could do a podcast on our guys that are thriving at the Division I level.
Right.
That'd be a nice little summer episode, Hardy. Do a little recap.
I like that.
There we go.
Hardy dropping ideas.
I have a few every once in a while.
But let's move it over to Vinny, another 28 infielder, Giancarlo Cleary out of San Marcos.
Yeah, I got to see Cleary a couple times this spring, and he's taken over shortstop duties, for San Marcos. After Max Farrell, another guy who's thriving at the Division I level for San Diego State right now, and Cleary's looked the part at shortstop both occasions. He's made every play right at him. To his forehand side, especially if something make a good plays, couple throws on the run. And the bats just play it all spring long. He's hitting over 400, currently 432 right now, and 44 at bats, 49 plate appearances. It's a line drive swing, can go the other way as well. Also has a home run this spring, so he has a little pull side pop. But it's mainly a contact driven approach from the right side, and I'm not sure how much bigger he's going to get. At least from getting taller, he's probably about 5'10". But it's athletic, it's loose in the box, it's a heavy bat waggle. He really gets the stride going, and it's really good bat to ball skills. And I think at the next level, you could easily see him slide over to second base if needed. But he's got a present hit tool, and it's just a profile that I think going to continue to tick up. And San Marcos has three really good sophomores right now, along with Noah Sumner, who's a catcher outfielder for them, and then also Oliver Vanderpool. So three guys that I think San Marcos is really going to build around for the next 2 to 3 years. And Cleary's going to be right in the middle of it, playing shortstop for him. And then Hardy, we'll go over to you. In my opinion, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the 27 class. But he's starting to really take off, and people are going to start really to know about him. But that's Carson Richter out of Newbury Park.
Well, I don't got to say anything after that, Vin. That covered pretty much what I was going to say. No, I know all of them. Ditto, move on to Les. Let's go there. No, you said it perfectly. It is a tool shed, and I know Les loves this guy. Carson Richter, it is a tool shed athlete who, as a sophomore, it was much more of the tool shed than the performance. This kid's figuring it out. I've seen him play twice this year. I saw him face a legit arm that's going to Duke that has a power breaking ball. And a year ago, he chases. He maybe gets a little overpowered. He gets a little rushed. Now, when he faces quality arms and quality stuff and the amount of spin he's seeing, he's tracking the ball so well. His takes are the hits are great, but for me, it's the takes. It's the way he's laying off of the breaking ball that he swung at. The fastball that he used to chase up at his letters, he's now, no, I'm not swinging at that. And he's putting the bat on the baseball more consistently. And then when he puts it in play, he's hammering balls. He hit a double the day I saw him. That is a home run at every other Marmoni League field except for Oaks Christian, because they've got a 90-foot fence and right center field, and he hit it about 20 feet up on the fence, goes out everywhere else. He makes a couple plays. He takes a walk. I love his dad. I joked with somebody one time. I was like, I think his dad's my associate scout in this area, because he sends me more. And this is why I love him, is he told me about 15 kids that I needed to see before he ever told me he was Carson's dad and I needed to come see Carson, because he advocates so well, and he's got a good eye for the kids in this area. And it's just, you said it perfectly. He is the most underrated kid. And he's going to come to the pro case. And the kid out of Utah is at IMG now that hit the massive home run and put on a display during BP. And I'm drawing a blank on the name, but just, I could see Carson having a performance like that. I see a lot of Quentin Young in him, where Quentin was a tool shed athlete and it just took him a little bit longer to let the game performance fully catch up with the baseball tools. And Carson is trending that way, where, he's committed to Michigan. And if in a year from now we see him heading off to play professional baseball instead of going to Michigan, I will not be surprised. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I won't be surprised if it happens.
Well, yeah, especially if there's another 15 pounds on that frame, right? And that,
and we have him at 6'6" on his 60. I was looking at his profile the other day, and I'm like, I think we're just slow playing him. I want to say, I know I've 6'4" out of this kid, and he's 6'5", 205 pounds.
Right.
It's just, he throws 97. He does things that I can only dream about. And,
well, I think all of us, but yeah.
And he's just,
and he's starting to get hot. I think I put that
on
tweet the other day. He's starting to get hot for them, man. And
he hit his first bomb, and I said, won't be his last. And he's hit 2 since then. He's just missed another 2. Newberry picked up a huge sweep last week for them in league on the back of him having a lot of really good games. I'm just so excited for that kid. I can talk all day, so I'm going to stop, and we're going to move on to another kid that I think we all would love to talk about. And I'm a little jealous that you got to see him, but at the same point, I told you you get to see him. Jay Beckettberg, Notre Dame, Texas.
Bergie, you got to love Bergie. I spent about 10 minutes talking to Bergie before they hit the field, and it's always an entertaining conversation. We'll leave it at that. It certainly was an entertaining conversation, but one of the things that really stood out in that conversation is that I learned is he got really sick prior to the area code select event there in February, and he went from 205 down to 190. So he was down for about a week, and I was talking to his dad during the game, and he said his dad told him he's not going to this thing. He had 103.2 degree fever just like the day before, on the Friday before or Thursday before, excuse me, with the event being on Saturday. And his dad told him, dude, you're not going. You're got 103 degree fever. You've lost 15 pounds, so on and so forth. But Bergie being Bergie, called them and on Saturday and was like, dude, I'm coming. And so he went and he performed and, probably didn't perform to his standards, well, I would assume, which, makes a whole lot of sense considering that he was down so sick. So now he's working to kind of rebuild and regain that 15 pounds that he lost. But, that sort of stuff kind of makes you feel for the guy because he built himself up and up to 205. And, obviously we know about the stuff and, the stuff was really good in this game, boys, because, he was up to 92. He told me he was, kind of touching 94s a little more frequently when he had the added weight. But he lived 90, 91. He's got a fastball. He's got a curveball. He's flirting with a cutter, at 86, 87. And it's dirty, man. It's just sharp. It falls off the table a little bit. But, Bergie is getting a whole lot better in terms of not only just the maturity, but he's getting a whole lot better in his mental approach to hitters. He's facing Santiago, which is a really good lineup in my book. He made one mistake. Striker Pence took him deep. But outside of that, he really limited damage and he ran into some traffic, got two big punch outs with, runner on third twice to end the inning. He got a ground out on to end another threat, a ground out double play ball. Ball hit to our boy AD at short, who started the front end of the 6-4-3. And not talking about him as a disservice because he's going to be really good too. But Bergie was, it was just a really strong outing for my first one. I'm excited because I'm going to head up and see them again against Harvard Westlake next week, where it'll be Bergie versus Kirchner. That's going to be a massive Mission League game.
Jay Kim.
Yeah, wow, our boy Jay Kim. We got to see him too. But yeah, Bergie was really, really good in this outing. And it was really impressive to see, like I said, just the mental maturity, right? Because we had him at JFG's and, several years ago, and he's just this goofy, quirky little 14-year-old kid who thought he was a hitter. And stop. We saw a little bit of a maturity growth last summer at the Future Games, but he's still kind of that quirky, kind of goofy kid. But now it's all business. I think he understands where the direction of his future. And a lot like Richter Hardy. If this guy never makes it to Texas next year, I wouldn't be shocked because he's not done growing. He's probably going to grow another couple of inches. He's probably going to add another 25 pounds to his frame before it's all said and done. And the thing that I really liked about our conversation was I asked him about his summer plans, and they're very specific, very targeted. I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to do this. And the rest of the time, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to lift. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get bigger. and I want to achieve those goals. And then moving ahead to next year, these are my goals. So, shout out to Bergie because, we all love him, obviously, as the person that he is, but it's just seeing that maturity and that growth, which is, really exciting for me, at least.
It was pretty cool, future games last year, and he was just under the lights against Texas, like that
Mhm.
that was cool,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And he
it's,
shoved.
and he shoved,
Yeah.
like that.
But you know what? It's funny. It's funny you bring that up, Vin, because I guess I can say it now. The Texas pitching coach Max Weiner came up to me on the last day, Saturday, and was like, the thing that really impresses me about him, he's your only PO that every game is in full uniform and is at the gate of the dugout, right?
Yeah.
Like most of the guys that had already thrown were in shorts down at the end of the dugout, kind of the PO corner as they labeled it. But when he said that, it was like, that's Bergie, man. He
Little
just
things.
yeah, he loves the game. And so I thought that was really a really important observation by what potentially is his future pitching coach.
I like how you brought up the fact that, over what he wants to do this summer. I think that's a huge deal nowadays is hey, know what you want to do, know where you need to go, and then assess where you're at. And I think a huge part that's kind of neglected right now is you got to play games. And part of that is true, but I think with in today's society where it's the reality is you're competing against a 22-year-old who's got 5 years of the weight room on you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for guys to get locked in earlier to set them up for success in the future, I think that's just huge. And, with him being a pitcher, he can kind of, work around that. But even with position players, it's hey, you don't have to play, all these millions of tournaments. It's look, they look at your body
Know
just
where
as much
to
as
go.
the talent.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, one of his goals, he straight up told me, he's like, I want to be in your guys' All-American game. He's like, and I'm going to come to the pro case, I'm going to shove. And it's you never lack confidence, Bergie.
I love you, Bergie.
You never lack confidence. That's for damn sure. So even back when you were an 8th grader, you thought you were going to be a hitter. So then let's go. Or sorry, Hank, let's go over to you. A guy that's definitely a hitter, an infielder for a Power 25 team up in Mountain View, Landon King out of St. Francis.
I've heard a lot about King. It's actually my first time being able to see him in person. But, all the rumors were pretty true that they were saying he's really athletic. It's not, super burner speed, but it's enough to on the base paths. It's going to give you some a hard time. I'd say his swing, the stance kind of reminds me he's got a little bit of Bazana in him, but obviously the bat is not anywhere, close to where Bazana's at. I think it's still raw in a sense of the bat speed's it's insane. I'm a huge fan of the bat speed, but the only thing that's kind of iffy for me right now is he can get base hits, but is the power there? And I saw him get a couple base hits. He got 2 doubles and a single. Got to show off his speed, but it's almost to a point where it's kind of too short, if that makes sense. I need just the extension wasn't there for me when I saw it. I'm not saying in a year or two, whatever that's going to come, but I think as far as right now, he's a really electric player to watch. He kind of reminds me of Tweet up in Chico, just the infield version of it. But I think he'll be a guy for me to monitor, and I know he's ranked pretty high for us too. But I think he's a kid to where he just needs to get more reps, and once he flattens out all those stuff, I think he's going to be a top guy for us, and then probably a guy you might see in Georgia. So a lot of good things from King, and especially that whole St. Francis team they've got a lot of good players, especially the Tallulah twins. Tanner Wall, and you got, they got a lot of young core guys too. Even Jack Leeper was really, really impressive out there. I could go on and on, but yeah. So let's toss it over to you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I said I really liked Leaper last year at the
Yeah.
area codes, man. I remember texting you, be like, dude, this guy is good. Like,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he
Dude,
got
dude.
hurt, came back, and then it was like it doesn't even look like he got injured, and it was an ACL tear too. So, I mean, he's doing really good. Let's go over to you, Vin. Your last guy out of Patrick Henry, Alex Messman.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of Alex over the last 2 years. Leadoff hitter for Patrick Henry, an uncommitted senior right now, and he's just having a monster spring, hitting 538 right now at a leadoff spot. He's got 21 hits, 14 runs scored. He's stolen 8 bags. He does have burner speed, in my personal opinion. I think that it's really quick out of the box. His sophomore year, he stole 28 bags for Patrick Henry, just to give you an idea of how he is on the base paths. And it's a really short swing. Not a lot of swing and miss. It's a really leadoff profile. Bat to ball skills. Are really I would say elite, but they're very above average for him. He puts the bat on the ball. It's a line drive swing, early foot stride. He works deep counts, which you love to see in a leadoff hitter. And, he's got that burner speed that really gets on full display in center field. I've seen him, run down plenty of balls over the last 2 years and, really just commands the outfield for Patrick Henry. And, on a roster that has, plenty of big names, a lot of talent. Obviously, you have the Gunn brothers, Bobo, Ian Brook. Messman's kind of their table setter. And when he goes, they seem to play really good baseball. And right now they're starting to heat up as league play gets going. I know they had, kind of a struggle start to the spring, but you're really setting the table for them. And, they had a good week in the Lions tournament. And, he's a guy that I think is going to, probably go the JUCO route next year, played 2 years at junior college baseball. And if he can add 10 to 15 pounds of that frame, I think that he's a guy that, we're going to see transfer to a pretty good school and have a good college career. And then Hardy, another uncommitted senior, a guy that, was a standout for us at our state games at a Pacifica High School, outfielder Riley Ortega.
Yeah, with Riley, I could basically, again, ditto move to less on what you just said about Messman because it's very, very similar profiles. It's funny. This was a change actually mid-podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I had 2 guys I was trying to decide on at the end, and I switched my mind about just right now. I'm like, I got to talk about Riley because Riley is it's a cheese ball favorite of mine. Like, I had a kid ask me, what does that mean? It's like, it's someone that maybe not everybody's going to love, but for me, this kid can flat out play baseball. And it goes back to seeing him as a sophomore on Pacifica's team that made a run to the CIF Southern Section semifinals and then won a regional title that year. And he's kind of been in the shadow of Devin Wilkes for 2 years. And Wilkes was the prominent force in that lineup, and now Wilkes is off at Cal State Bakersfield doing really good things up there. And it was, for me, who's going to replace Devin? How are they going to replace Devin so that they can stay in the hunt in the Channel League? And Riley, I had a good talk with their assistant coach after, and he said, I had a talk with Riley before the start of last summer and said, basically that we need you to help us replace Devin if we're going to challenge for a league title and a playoff berth, and Hank, you said this, hey, don't go play every single event this summer. Go get in the weight room, do some select things, do some things that are going to matter for you versus playing every single weekend of the summer. And Riley did that. He has put on, I think, 15 or 20 pounds of strength going into state games, and he's added another 5 to 10 since then. He's running really well. It's showing up in his bat. He leads their team in basically every offensive category. He's hitting over 400. He's got an on-base percentage knocking on the 500 door. He's second in slugging. He leads the team in hits. He leads the team in runs scored out of the leadoff spot. He's got 7 stolen bases. He plays really, really, really good defense in center field. I keep, whenever he tags me in something, and I think even on the video I posted, I'm just like, whoever pulls the trigger on this kid is going to get a player that's going to help him win games. And in the long run, that still matters. Even if he's never going to be a professional baseball player, he's going to help a college program win baseball games. And every junior college coach that I see at a game out here, they ask me, who do we need to be on? If he's not the first name, he's the second name that I tell them, if you get Riley Ortega, he's going to help your program win games for 2 years, and he's going to go on and he's going to play 4-year college baseball. So it's one of those, it may not be the sexiest profile of anybody we've talked on here, but this kid can really play baseball, and he's really going to help a college program. All right, we're going to wrap it up with the youngest guy we're going to talk about today, and that is right-handed pitcher Aiden Montgomery out of El Dorado.
So I had the opportunity to play golf with Max Lucas from El Dorado out at the Palm Desert tournament in December, and he was telling me about some of the young arms he's got, and he's got 3 freshmen that he really likes, and he's got 2 sophomores on his JV that he really likes, but he kind of kept coming back to Montgomery and Montgomery and Montgomery, and so I've been on him, gone to several El Dorado games, and in hopes that I'm going to see him. And finally, I was kind of like, dude, when are you bringing this kid up? Or are you not bringing this kid up? And then, I get the news from our good friend Nate Allum over there, who's like, hey, we're starting him, day 4 of the tournament. It's like, perfect, I'll be there. And boy, did this guy not disappoint, man. He went 3 strong innings, first career varsity start, threw 54 pitches with 35 of them as strikes, gave up only 1 run, scattered 5 hits, finished with 3 strikeouts, 6 foot, about $170. It's a pretty clean arm, man. And it's like, if you watch the video that I put into his profile or that we tweeted out, I mean, you can see why they're so high on this guy. I mean, he's going against Mountain Ridge, a pretty big time team out of Utah with, they got a TCU commit batting in the 3-hole. They got a guy going to College of Southern Idaho batting in the 2-hole. They got another not lower level, but mid-major Division I guy batting in the 4-hole. And he navigated his way through those guys twice with no damage. It's just again, really loose, clean arm action that he repeats the mechanics pretty consistently. There's a couple times where you could tell he tried to ramp it up, fell off to the first base side a little bit, and just trying to kind of gas it up a little bit. But this is an arm that will be the frontline arm of the future for El Dorado, no question. And it's going to be the arm that leads the way for, again, next year when they lose a lot of senior arms. It's going to lead the way with a really strong group of sophomores and juniors for the next couple of years for El Dorado, who I think, starting next year, I mean, look, it's a pretty good team now, but I think starting next year, they're going to make a ton of noise, because when you have 5-6 underclass arms that are all going to be mid to upper 80s, potentially even low 90s with some of the secondary pitches that these guys have, El Dorado is going to play a tough schedule out of conference. Their league's going to be really good. It's just going to be a fun program to watch here in the next 3-4 years. And I think Aiden Montgomery is going to be at the start of that thing, as far as the pitching goes for El Dorado. So, it's good, man. And you see a freshman that's 6 foot, 6'1", $170 with feet this big, that would indicate that, hey, he's probably not done growing. It's just really exciting. But guys, I wanted to throw out one more guy, and I just, because a bonus guy for me, because I saw this guy for 3 games. We all saw, well, the 3 of us saw him at the Pro Case last year out of Nevada. Andrew Giles, dude, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I put a tweet out and got some pushback, but it's a left-handed bat that hits for power. I saw him go double off the left center field wall. I saw him go double off the right center field wall. I saw him get enough to get a double down the left field line. I mentioned earlier he wore 90 in the ribs, and his first pitch that he saw against Slevko didn't stop him from, getting 2 more hits in that game. But defensively, he made play after play after play, and the arm strength is just absurd. So I went back and I watched, the video we got of him from the Pro Case and looked at all of his numbers. I didn't realize, and I know we all left there buying stock in Andrew Giles, but I didn't realize he was a 6'6" runner at the pro case. And I didn't realize that it's low to mid 90s from the outfield. And so I just wanted to give him a shout out because dude, he's really, really good. And I texted Shooter, and I remember talking to Shooter. I'm like, there's a couple outfielders in SoCal who are, maybe more famous and have a lot more hype going into the draft than Giles does. But in my book, he's right there with those guys because, to do it on three
consecutive
days that I saw him. I didn't see their fourth game or their third game, I guess it would have been. But, dude, it's real. It's real. So I just wanted to give a quick little shout out to Andrew Giles because, man, it's really good.
I can see him having kind of like a Angel Laya type year if he goes to Oregon next year,
100%.
Type of
Laya's playing well.
Yeah, 100%. Like
I said, podcast about all the guys we talked about last year.
Yeah, save that content for later.
Smarter.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're going to have to do that. It beats your other idea that we keep internal. We won't talk about that one. The first and second teams that we got going on that, but
that must hit me pretty hard right now on that one.
Oh,
those teams brewing.
Yeah, that we might need to have a fourth team and an honorable mention.
we might have a freshman team on that one.
All right, dude, I love it. All right, guys. Well, that'll wrap it up. 20 names and just to break down the last week. So we'll be back with another podcast probably next week to recap another 20 guys. But any final thoughts from you guys?
Oh, it was nice to get a day off. Nice to get a day off to recharge, but
here we go, baby.
We'll be back
the
at
sprint
it.
starts.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, all right. For Vinny, for Hank, for Hardy, I'm Les. We thank you guys for sticking around and listening to the podcast. And until next time,